Hi, I'm Krista.
And I'm Sarah.
And we have this podcast called Have We Talked About? Where two friends at different points in their lives chat about everything in their lives.
From current events to pop culture, from self-care to self-indulgence, and everything in between.
Join us weekly to see what we talk about next. Hey girl, hey.
Hey.
We're back.
New week, new us. Just joking.
Yeah, it's a new us, a new season, new lives, new everything.
Yeah.
We're podcast experts now. Just kidding.
And it's also, we can also say this is going to be like a new series we'll be talking about today.
That's right, which is exciting. It's a rebirth, if you will.
Literally. Do you want to tell everyone what we're chatting about today?
Sure. We're going to talk about babies, but more specifically trying to conceive babies as part of a bigger baby series. As we know or don't know, Sarah is a mom to two babies, and as I am a mom to no babies, we come from different aspects of life. So want to spend this time to talk about trying to have a baby, all the things you don't expect, I guess, with conceiving. I'm saying this was complete ignorance. And yeah, your overall experience. Does that sound good?
And absolutely. And I just want to clarify that we are not professionals. We are not doctors. This is just my personal take on, conceiving kids, because I have.
Right.
And just providing facts to people that maybe haven't conceived kids, that everything that goes into it. There's a lot nowadays, and I just want to provide some just information around it.
Right. Just your perspective. And I think that's a good call out that our podcast is not, 45 minutes to 60 minutes long. We are not covering all the bases. We're not covering all of the edge cases. It's just high level, Sarah's experience. We're not diminishing anybody else's experience by any means.
Absolutely. So, Krista, what do you want to know first?
Well, I mean, I did a little bit of research in order for us to have this conversation, because I have no experience to speak of, right? I've never tried to have a baby, right? In specifically. So I did look up some stuff, and it's interesting. One, that as women, we don't understand our own kind of cycles and when we actually are able to get pregnant, when we're not. I think that should be taught in schools. Hey, girls, don't have sex with your boyfriends right after your period, because that is when you're most likely to get pregnant.
Right after, no?
Like within, 3 to 5 days is when you ovulate. Again, I'm speaking from like ignorance. Is that not true?
Okay. No.
Seriously?
No. Usually, it's like the middle of your cycle. So yeah, I'm glad we're having this conversation then. You are more likely to get pregnant right before your cycle, not after. But again, I'm totally ignorant to that. That's so funny, because you usually have to wait like right after you have your period, you usually have to wait like a week and a half, and then you start ovulating, and then there's an ovulation window where it's like the golden hour.
Right.
And then you have to wait like 2 weeks later to see if it actually like worked or not. So there's a lot of waiting.
Yeah.
So you get your period, and then you have to wait. So pretty much, and you don't know when you're ovulating. So there's many different methods to figure out when you're actually ovulating, because when you're ovulating is the best chance for you to get pregnant.
Right.
And there's a window. There's a window of like 5-6 days, and then there's like the day, right? So sometimes people take like their temperature first thing when they wake up, because I think if it's higher, then you're potentially ovulating.
Okay.
I personally like the ovulation strips. So you just like, after a week after your period, you would like pee on them, and then you would slowly see a second line get darker and darker. So that means like, it's coming up. So you can start trying during that time, and then you'll see it get really dark, and then you'll see it fade off over the days.
I am familiar with ovulation strips, sadly enough, just because I was curious.
Do tell.
There's no story, really. It was just like, it was me trying to figure out like my cycle, because it was just at a point in my life where my cycle wasn't steady. And so I didn't feel just comfortable understanding what was going on with my body. So I wasn't trying to do anything.
Got it. It's crazy to me, though, because we have all this knowledge now and research that, you know, there is a window and there is a specific time of when you need to get pregnant. We know this now. But when our parents were trying and when our grandparents were trying, they didn't know that.
But had so many kids anyway. And I think this is a good time for me to bring in a stat where, like, the fact that you and I exist because, you know, an egg was fertilized is not something that like has like a high percentage. The chances of getting pregnant during ovulation are only around 20 to 30% per cycle.
Yeah.
So the aspect
100%.
that we came to be is like the odds are not in our favor. So
no,
the fact that our grandparents, etc., had a whole bunch of kids, I'm like, they must have had some other methods, because
they just probably had sex every single day. Because again,
because they had time.
They didn't know. They didn't know, you know, there's a window, there's like a few days, there's the day to try, right? There's a few days before and a few days after, and then like the right time. They didn't know any of that. So they were just, you know, humping like bunnies and hoping for the best.
But how are they humping like bunnies when they had so many kids to take care of?
I have no idea. Like, it just boggles my mind. But it's good now because we have so much research that we know. And there's also apps too. So I use the ovulation strips to see like when I was actually ovulating, because when it comes down to it, when you're with your partner or whoever and you're ready to, you know, start trying.
Yeah.
I took it like, I'm just not going to go into it and be like, okay, let's just try and like see what happens. No. We're going to try everything we can to make this happen.
And was there a reason behind that? Like, rather than just like kind of seeing where it goes?
Because I thought it was hard to get pregnant. And at the end of the day, there's only 12 times in a year to potentially get pregnant.
Valid.
Right?
Right.
So I'm just not like, oh, let's just try and have fun and see where it goes. No, I'm not doing that. Like, if we're going to try to have a baby, let's try it. Let's do everything in our power to try to have a baby. So yeah, got the ovulation strips, and I downloaded some apps so you could like input your period, and then the app could kind of guesstimate when you're ovulating, but the strips really
tell you for sure.
Solidified like that you're ovulating. Then you would input that information into the app to really like better understand your cycles and everything like that.
And to clarify with the strips, these are the strips that you pee on, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Or you dip.
Or you dip. You dip in the pee or pee on the strip.
Yeah, like for females, we don't really like pee in a straight line, so it's easier if you just like pee in a cup and then dip it. Well, it's very hard to get it under because you have to do it for like 6 seconds or something. It's very difficult. So I would recommend just pee in a cup and then bring it up and then just put it in. Easy peasy. You're not getting it everywhere.
I'm still stuck on the fact that you're saying that people don't pee in a straight line. But anyways. This, I don't want to be too stat heavy, but I think this is a good little segue because you talked about like you kind of made a plan or concerted effort to try to get pregnant. According to the American Pregnancy Association, about 85% of couples will conceive within 1 year of trying, and about 7% will conceive within the second year. Would you say that within the year that you were trying that you were successful?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I think the hardest part about like when you've made your mind up that you're ready to grow your family, at the end of the day, you have no idea how long it's going to take. You don't know if it's going to take a month, a year. You don't know if you have any issues. You don't know if your partner has any issues. So it's very unknown until you start trying.
Sure. You don't know if there's like infertility issues. And I don't know. This is the information that I brought up. Like some of the issues for women can be an ovulation disorder, endometriosis, polycystic ovarian syndrome, and then sometimes issues with like a blockage in the fallopian tube.
Absolutely. And sometimes males have the issues as well, right?
Right. I was just going to get to that it's not always the female. Sometimes there's mobility issues with those little spermies, or a low sperm count, or apparently sperm shapes can be abnormal. I mean,
exactly.
why is that a surprise?
So they do recommend, you know, if you are serious and you do want to start a family, to start taking prenatal vitamins before you start trying, just so you can get your folic vitamin, whatever,
Folic
increased
acid?
a bit. Yeah, increase. So highly recommend getting that, doing your research, picking the best one for you, and then start taking that before you start trying. And then anything else your doctor recommends as well. Some people will like cut their caffeine. Some people will, you know, start decreasing their alcohol. Really, whatever your doctor recommends.
Right. Because there's, you want to be able to kind of create a level set, a baseline to like make it the most perfect environment as you possibly can.
Exactly. And I also feel like trying to conceive, I feel like back in the day, yes, they had a lot of babies and they didn't know the window per se, but they were also younger. In today's day and age, we have all this knowledge and information, but nowadays people are older when they're having children, and potentially the risks, or it's just harder to have kids because our age is that much older.
And that's a good point. That seems a really good time for me to insert another little statistic, even though I feel like it's shoved down women's throats that, you know, basically once you hit 35, it's over for you. Your fertility declines at like basically a rapid rate. But men's fertility also does decline. So it's, you know, men can still get women pregnant later on in their years, but their sperm quality and the quantity does decrease after the age of 40. So
but it's funny, but no one talks about that. I feel like they just talk about the women's age.
Yeah, and it's like nobody's disputing it, and completely understand that women, you know, maybe should consider that, not be so career focused, but like that's why there's things like freezing your eggs and waiting till later till you're able to like financially take care of a kid. I think that's the biggest overarching concern, is that it's not a matter of having the baby young, but it's like a providing for the baby.
Totally. No, absolutely. Absolutely. And the good thing with, you know, with research and science and everything, that if you can't get pregnant, quote unquote, naturally, there are other methods that you can try to hopefully get pregnant. There's, I think it's called IUI, there's IVF, there's all sorts of different ways and methods in hopes to get pregnant.
For sure. And
that they didn't have, you know, X amount of years ago.
Yeah. And it seems, I didn't pull a stat on it, that's becoming maybe not more common, but more acceptable, and as well as like surrogacy. But those all have costs. And if you have
for sure
an employer that helps support that in any way, then that's great. It's not available to everybody, obviously. I do want to take a step back for a second when we talk about like getting pregnant. And might be something I've just heard, and I don't know if it's substantiated, that, you know, depending on the type of birth control you're on, if you're on one before you're pregnant, that may be like not an issue, but an obstacle, something that might slow down your ability, where it may take a little bit longer because your body has to like regulate on its own. What can you share with the audience about that, if you're willing?
Yeah. I was on a birth control before I had my first son. And my doctor said, yep, just come off of it, and then you can start trying like that month. So I think I got off of it. I started taking my prenatal, and then we waited like a month or two and then started trying. And then I had my son, and then I got on a different birth control. I got on the IUD. But no one told me that when I took the IUD out, there would be potential delays in getting my period.
Oh.
So when we were ready to, okay, I think we're ready to, you know, grow our family again. Yeah. You know, got the IUD out and didn't get my period for about 8 months.
Oh, shit. So, okay, so let's stop there. Just because you don't get a period doesn't mean you're not ovulating. So what did you do to like make sure everything is like copacetic?
So, but we didn't know if I was ovulating or not, right? So they wanted to make sure I had regular cycles before starting to try. I got sent to a fertility doctor to see if there's anything else going on. Eventually, my period did come. It was just like a little delayed, a little slow. And then it was fine once I got my period. After a few months, took a little longer the second time around. We were able to conceive. But yeah, it's just interesting how the different methods of birth control affected my cycles. And I had no idea.
Yeah, I don't want to make these sweeping claims, but it definitely seems to impact your ovulation. That it's stopping it in some way, naturally.
Yeah, totally. I also think just the process of, trying to conceive is potentially a really emotional, lonely process. Depending who you are as a person and who you are as a couple, you might not tell anybody the struggles that you're going through.
I was going to ask about that.
Because, there's a lot of waiting. You have, 5 or 6 days when you can actually try, and then you have to wait again, and then you take the test, and you see another negative, and you're heartbroken, and you got to wait again to then potentially try again. And if you're not, and that's fine, if you're not communicating to anyone or telling anyone what's going on in your personal life, and you putting on this strong face at work or with your family or everything, that's very hard after a long time. It's very, very hard because it's literally an emotional roller coaster that you're on.
I can't even imagine. So, I don't know. I don't want to get into too into your business, but at the same time, how many times were you trying before you got the first pregnancy positive?
With my first son, I was shocked how quickly we were able to conceive.
Okay.
It was, I was shocked because I had this feeling that potentially it would take some time.
Right.
I think it only took us 2 months.
That's great.
And it was great. And I didn't understand the emotional roller coaster at that point.
Right.
With my second son, it took a lot longer, and it was just devastating. Every month was so hard. It was so hard because you try and you're like, hopefully this one worked. Hopefully it worked. Okay, we gotta wait. Okay, 10 days, 9 days, 8 days. You're counting down when you can take the test, and you take it too early. You're like, okay, no, it's too early. I'll take it again. And you're like, it didn't work.
Yeah.
And it's very, very hard. And you don't understand why, because you're like, we did the exact same thing the first time around.
Right.
Why isn't it working?
Of course. Well, I mean, call it that birth control. It seems like that maybe had a bit to do with it. You're older, obviously. You're older than the first one. Yeah, there seems to be an aspect of emotions, emotions are being impacted. There's that feeling of rejection. There's that feeling of my body isn't doing what it's supposed to be doing. So you don't feel like you're, I don't want to say you don't feel like a failure, but you don't feel like you're not normal, but it's just not doing what it's supposed to be doing. What am I doing wrong? So
exactly.
And then again, you're not sharing that with other people. It's just between you and your husband and maybe somebody close to you. So it definitely feels like it can be isolating. Are there any things that you're doing to try and maintain an overall positive attitude during the times when you were trying and weren't sharing with everybody what was going on?
When we were trying a second time around, I was more open with people that we were trying. I was more open with my close friends and our families, and saying that we were struggling.
Right.
And it was, I don't know why, and it was really hard. So I was a lot more open the second time around.
Did that help you to
I think
navigate,
it did.
to take pressure off?
Yeah, because then at the end of the day, people ask you, right? Oh my God, when are you having your second?
Yeah.
Or,
For sure.
So depending who it is, it's like, working on it. Or, depending on who it is, you can go into a little more detail. But it's very hard. You feel pressured. You don't understand why it's not working. And then you're also counting down. You're like, oh my God, I only have X amount more times until the end of the year, and then it's going to be the following year. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
It's stressful.
And everything boils down to math, doesn't it?
Yes.
So then tell me about, if you want, Seeing the positive pregnancy sign the second time around, was that more emotional than the first, given that the journey was longer?
Yeah, it was. And it was like a sigh of relief, like, okay. But then I was also a lot more freaked out and stressed during my first trimester, because I was like, oh, I don't
want to lose,
God forbid anything happens, I don't want to lose this baby, I don't want to have a miscarriage, I don't want to go through that again, oh my gosh. So I was a lot more aware and stressed out during my first trimester.
So you think you just indirectly touched on something that we didn't ask. You've miscarried in the past. I'm taking it based on what you just said.
I have not.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's good.
I have not. It's just I've seen so many things. And at the end of the day, miscarriage is pretty. And I don't want to say popular, but it's common. It's common.
It's more common than we realize.
Yeah, and again, people don't talk about it.
They don't,
because I feel like the females think that they're the failures, and they're not.
Yeah, agreed. I can think of at least a couple people at the top of my head where it's like they have some kids, but they miscarried along the way. So, and yeah, I can't fathom, but acknowledge that is difficult to navigate. It's difficult to get 100%. Over. Like, you still feel the same when you're pregnant, I would imagine, and going through those emotions, and to know that what your body was preparing for is no longer. Yeah. I can't.
And then again, like, maybe you haven't told anybody.
Yeah.
That exactly. You are pregnant because you're in your first trimester. So you're dealing with this alone with your partner, that's awful. So people don't really know truly how you're feeling or what you're going through.
Of course. And people that are asking, they're not necessarily doing it to be malicious or to be nosy. Sometimes you're just asking to, like, make conversation, and they don't know behind closed doors that you're, like, really suffering.
Right.
Which I think speaks to, like, not from a healthcare, but a mental care perspective, that there should be some allowances for leaves of some sort, of days for, like, miscarrying. Like, that's a big deal that requires women to, like, mentally get over and physically recover from.
Valid, because depends how far along you are.
Yeah.
You might need to go to the hospital to,
get surgery or get something taken care of.
Exactly. And you might need some time just to, like, recover from that. 100%. And just the mental and the emotional aspect as well.
Yeah. I can't even, when I think back, I went to Catholic school, so I don't know how people feel about that. But, Catholic girls aren't always as prim and proper as you expect them to be. But I knew at least 2 or 3 girls that got pregnant during high school. But one of them, who I was relatively close with in our younger years, was, like, detailing to us one day how she miscarried a baby. And it was just like,
oh my God.
Yeah. Now that I think about it, I'm like, this is horrendous, because we were, like, 16 at the time, that she's going through something so adult, and, like, kind of talking about, like, she's bleeding out. And I'm just like, she was 16. It's emotionally, mentally, physically challenging.
Yeah. 100%. So if an employer can come out with some sort of PTO, like time off to,
if I can take time off for the flu.
Yeah, exactly. I think so. I think there should be something to catch it.
Agreed. To tie into, like, all of my stats, according to the CDC, approximately 10% of women aged 15 to 44 in the U.S. do have difficulty getting pregnant or staying pregnant. So just to give the whole idea or aspect of miscarriage some kind of, like, data to support, that's a stat that we have reported.
Absolutely.
Going back to other ways for, like, fertility treatments and stuff, I know you mentioned IUI and IVF. IVF does have the highest success rate based on the stats I was able to pull, with a live birth rate of about 30% per cycle for women under the age of 35. So,
wow. But also, I feel like, again, I've never gone through it, but just what I see and when I talk to people about the process of IVF, it's insane what people have to go through.
It definitely sounds that way, because I think you're having to inject yourself with hormones to produce more eggs, right? So you're tricking your body so you can harvest. And then I think the egg retrieval is not a pleasant experience physically either.
Exactly. And then you see pictures of, like, oh, my miracle baby, and then there's, like, all the
Tests.
like the shots, like around the baby, and there's like hundreds. I'm literally just like, oh my gosh, this person is a superhero that they went through this and did this. Like, oh my gosh, I give them so much respect and kudos.
And you're highlighting on the emotional aspect of it, right? Like the journey to get there, people don't really know. Like in how challenging it can be from different areas, physically and mentally. According to the American Society for Reproductive Medicine, about 50% of women and 15% of men experience depression during those infertility treatments.
I believe that. 100%. I'm shocked it's not higher.
Well, I guess again, we don't know. Maybe it's not. It's underreported, right? Like maybe people aren't really realizing that they are suffering depression, because there's, I guess, aspects of being like high functioning depressive person and a low functioning depressive person.
Right. That's valid. Yeah.
I was going to say, I don't want to, I feel like I'm really being stat heavy in this conversation because that's all I have to bring to the conversation. But what are some things that you also want to share about your experience, your journey?
I would just say that when you have made the decision to start trying, do your research, talk to your doctors to see, what you need to do ahead of time, because there are things you need to do ahead of time, start taking your prenatal net vitamins, maybe buying, the ovulation strips, seeing what apps to download, things like that. So just doing your research and then just like mentally preparing, because at the end of the day, you don't know how long it's going to take. You don't know the journey you're going to be on, and deciding how maybe open you want to be with people.
Right.
Maybe you have a best friend that you feel like you want to share, your ups and downs with, and that's totally fine. But yeah, just mentally preparing of how hard it's probably going to be. It's not like the TV shows and movies where like you have like, well, people do have one-night stands and get pregnant. Like that just boggles my mind.
Right.
But it's a lot harder than that.
Yeah, I think we take it for granted that the actual overall success rate isn't as high as I think we are kind of making it seem to be. So we should be easy on ourselves, and as women and as couples, that we're not failing because it's not happening right now.
Yeah, exactly. There is a time, I forget what it's called, not ovulation, but when like the sperm finds the egg, there's like a term for that.
Like the scavenger hunt phase.
And sometimes women can feel when that happens. What's it called?
I know that they can feel when you're ovulating, and that has a term. Because I know I can feel it. I get that pang in the side of my stomach.
Yeah. I was so in tune with my body when I was going through it the second time around. Like I knew like when I was getting close to my ovulation, exactly when I was ovulating, because you just really understand you get to understand your body more and more.
Of course.
And you understand the different cues and the different symptoms and things like that. So unfortunately, the more times every month you try, you'll really get to understand your body, because women's bodies are amazing.
Right? Creating life and stuff, like creating like a human, like what? I was trying to Google on the side like the term that you're looking for, but I only find fertilization and conception when I do a quick 30-second search. I'm sure that's
maybe it's like the fertilization.
You can like feel it.
You can kind of feel something different for like 20 seconds.
What does it feel like?
I forget. It's like almost feels like a cramp and like a lot of pressure.
Oh.
Yeah, but then your mind tricks you too, and then and then you take a test and like nothing happens.
But that in its own right is fascinating when at that point of like conception or fertilization that it's still microscopic, and the fact that you could feel it.
Yeah, it's insane. And sometimes you can see, because in women's bodies, every month the egg drops out of one of the fallopian tubes, either the right one or the left one.
Yeah.
There were times during the month where I was like, the left one dropped. The right one dropped this month. Like you'll just really start to understand your body.
The actual term for the ovulation pain is called Mittelschmerz. That's what I was trying to trying to remember.
That.
Yeah.
That's too funny.
I'm like, I know it has some kind of schmerz on the end. middle schmerz. Yeah, the twinge, the sudden twang of pain.
That's too funny. And then it's deciding whether or not you want to like tell people that when you successfully do get pregnant, it's whether or not you want to tell people in your first trimester, because there's all this, I don't know, stuff around like, oh my God, don't tell anyone in your first trimester. You might have a miscarriage. But at the end of the day, you do you.
Yeah.
If you want to tell people, tell people. If you don't want to tell anybody, don't tell anyone.
Of course. Because then it's like you're having to lie in other ways, because we are social beings and social creatures, and lots of stuff is happening all year round. So there is at least one party or two during those 3 months that you're invited to that now you have to find a reason why you were not drinking.
Exactly.
Or
right.
Eating raw fish or something, right?
Right.
Like,
right. Right.
I'm on a cleanse.
Exactly. But yeah, it's once you're in the process of trying to conceive, it's a lot more challenging and difficult than what they portray when you're young, when you're watching movies, when you're watching TV shows. It's crazy. It's truly magic what happens.
When you think about it, yeah, like
it's unbelievable.
It's not 100% shot. Like the rates are low, and the fact that we all defied those odds to be is incredible.
100%. Do you have any questions?
I mean, I'm glad we cleared up that whole ovulation thing. That's important for me to know going forward.
Yeah, it happens in the middle, not at the beginning.
Yeah. So, no, I can't even begin to have a question about like how to have a baby other than I don't have a partner to even, like, that's my first step, right? Like, if that's what I want to do. I think we covered all the things that would be prevalent based on your experience. And again, it's up to you and what you want to share. So I feel like we've done a good job of kind of highlighting and just recognizing it's not as easy as everybody makes it seem, and maybe that's what we need to normalize, that people getting pregnant isn't like this is a 90% thing. Like this is we're operating on the other end of the spectrum of like success rates. So be easy on everybody. That's
totally like if you have sexual intercourse during your ovulation window, don't expect to be pregnant. Like, it's crazy, but don't expect to get pregnant. Wild.
What I would want to know, and I didn't dig into the stats, is that it does seem that if you, or maybe I heard this, that when you get pregnant, the success of becoming pregnant again increases. And maybe that's why like some people are able to have like 19 children, that for whatever reason, when that first pregnancy hits, there's like some syncing up that happens in the background in the reproductive organs where I guess the body knows how to make it work and, get pregnant. So
yeah, maybe. And and again, it depends on the person, it depends on the situation, it depends on everything. Again, personally, in my situation, I found it a lot harder to get pregnant the second time around. I think I was obviously a little older.
Yeah.
I was a lot more tired. There were less chances because I was a lot more tired.
Of course.
And you're just busier. You have a kid already, right?
Yeah.
You don't have all this time on your hands with no kids to try for your first. So, but people say it was a lot easier the second time around because they were more knowledgeable, which is granted. But personally, I found it harder because I was also stressed too, because I was like, okay, I really want them to be, this age gap between my first and my second, like I put that pressure and stress on myself. Silly. But I think it depends on the person.
Agreed. Yeah. And with that being said, I feel like we can probably like wrap up our talk today. I mean, of course, listeners are always encouraged to share, but knowing that this is kind of a personal and private topic, again, we want to respect everybody's wishes, and wish everybody nothing but good vibes in their journey to conceive.
Absolutely. It's a tough process. So I'm sending you all the baby magical fairy dust, and good luck. It's really challenging, but you got this.
Yeah. We love you, support you, we see you, wish you nothing but the best. And I guess until next week, Miss Sarah, I'll talk to you later.
Sounds good. See you all next week. Bye.
Bye.